Alright, let me take you back to the summer of 2019. It was June, and me and my buddy, along with our girlfriends, had planned this chill camping trip. Just a one-night getaway, you know? Nothing crazy, just good vibes, nature, and a little fun. So the day arrives and we're packing up the car, stuffing in all our gear. Tents, sleeping bags, coolers, everything. We finally get all set, plug in the destination on the GPS, and hit the road. Now, it's about a 3-hour drive to this remote campsite, and let me tell you, those 3 hours felt like forever. Mostly because my buddy and his girl couldn't stop bickering about stupid stuff. What music to play, what snacks to eat, just dumb things. Meanwhile, me and my girl were just vibing, excited to get there. Eventually, we arrive. It's getting close to sundown, and we start unloading. I grab my stuff, then help my girlfriend with hers. That's when my buddy notices something weird. His girl has 3 whole bags for a single night. "Why the hell do you need 3 bags?" he asks, completely baffled. She just smirks and unzips one of them. Inside, a solid ounce of weed, pre-rolls, and a bunch of other goodies. The second bag was snacks, like an insane amount. Chips, chocolate, gummy bears, all her favorites. And the third? Just clothes. I swear, this girl was more prepared for a full-on festival than a camping trip. Now that we knew we had weed, we had to find a good spot, somewhere away from other campers so we wouldn't get any unwanted attention. We wandered for a while, and by the time the sun was setting, we finally found it. A perfect clearing, right by some tall trees, far from any paths or other campers. We start setting up. The plan was simple. Get the tents up, light a fire, eat some hot dogs, then chill with a blunt under the stars. Sounds perfect, right? Only problem? We didn't have enough firewood. So I tell them, I'll go grab some, figuring it'd take me, 5 minutes? Maybe 10? My buddy stays behind with the girls, and I head off into the trees. It's quiet, real quiet. The kind of quiet where you suddenly realize just how alone you are. The only sounds are my footsteps crunching over dry leaves. I keep walking, picking up sticks here and there when suddenly, something grabs my wrist. Not like a twig brushing against me, not like I accidentally caught my sleeve on a branch. No, this was a hand, a real, human hand. Cold, strong, fingers digging into my skin. I look up and there's this guy standing in front of me. Blank face, empty eyes. He's not even breathing heavy, just there. And his fingernails, way too long for a normal dude, are pressing so hard into my wrist, it's like he's trying to dig them in. And then he moves his other hand, trying to grab my other wrist. Instinct kicks in. I don't think, I just react. I yank back, turn my head away so I don't have to look at his face, and scream, like full-blown terror scream. My friends yell back, saying they're coming. And just like that, the grip disappears. My wrist is free. My arms are no longer being pulled. I turn back to face him, but he's gone. Not a sound. No rustling leaves, no footsteps running away, just gone. My heart is slamming in my chest. I don't waste a second. I spin around and bolt back toward camp, sprinting like my life depends on it. When I reach them, I don't even explain. I just say, we need to go, now. They see my face, see my wrist, and they don't ask questions. We pack up in record time, practically running back to the car. The whole way, I'm explaining what happened. I can tell they're scared too, because nobody's arguing, nobody's questioning anything. We just load up, get in, and get the hell out of there. When we finally stop for gas an hour later, I check my wrist. It's red, raw, with deep nail marks. I take a picture of it, but that photo, lost when my iPhone broke. The only proof I have now is the scar that's still there to this day, a reminder of just how much force that guy had. And the weirdest part? I never heard him. No footsteps approaching, no breathing. Just silence before and silence after. I don't know what that was. A crazy dude living in the woods? A ghost? Something else? I have no idea. But what I do know is I'm never going camping in that area again. And here's where it gets even weirder. A few nights later, I wake up in my own bed with a feeling of pressure on my wrist. The same wrist. It's not painful, just there. Like someone is lightly holding it. I flip on my bedside lamp, expecting to see maybe my blanket twisted weirdly or my arm asleep. But no. There are fresh, red finger marks. I don't sleep for the rest of the night. The next day, I do some digging online. I find an old forum post, some urban legend about a man who was supposedly seen near that same campsite. A man with long nails who would grab people but never speak. The post was from years ago, and the last comment? If you feel his grip once, he never really lets go. I shut my laptop and try to shake it off. Just some internet nonsense, right? But even now, every once in a while, I wake up in the middle of the night with that same pressure on my wrist, and I know he's still out there, somewhere. Alright, so I don't know if anyone is actually going to read this, but I feel like I need to get it out there. Whenever I tell people about this, they just kind of brush it off with a, wow, that's creepy, but man, this whole thing really messed me up. So, here's the deal. My name's Chloe. I'm 17 now, but this happened 2 summers ago when I was 15, almost 16. I worked at this old school sleepaway camp. It was kind of run down, didn't pay much, but I was excited. It was right on the water, which sounded like a dream, and I had done some first aid and lifeguard training there the year before. So I figured, why not spend the summer getting my volunteer hours in? Turns out I was very, very wrong. Everything was fine at first. It was just a normal camp job until my last week there. That's when things went straight to hell. The last week was Senior Girls Week, which meant all the campers were girls between 11 and 14, and all the counselors were female. I had a cabin of 5 girls, and 2 of them were total nightmares, so most of my time was spent making sure they didn't cause too much chaos. For the first 2 nights, everything was totally normal. Some of the younger girls got homesick at bedtime, but that was standard. Then, on the 3rd night, one of my campers, one of the most independent girls in my cabin, woke me up by just standing next to my bed, staring at me. Creepy as hell. She whispered that she thought something was outside and that she wanted to go home. I tried to reassure her, told her it was probably just a deer or a raccoon since they wandered into camp all the time, and eventually she went back to bed. I figured she was just adjusting to being away from home. But the next night, that's when things started getting seriously weird. She woke me up again, but this time she said she needed to use the bathroom. The bathrooms were a little ways from the cabin, so I had to go with her. Once we got inside, under the light, I realized she had wet herself. I asked her about it, and she just said it was an accident. I wasn't mad or anything. These things happen. I let her clean up and went to get one of the camp leaders to figure out what to do about her sleeping bag. That's when things took a turn. Our camp leader, Elmo, yeah, all the staff had code names, started asking her some questions like if she was scared or if anything had happened. And that's when she said it. The man. Now, I was half listening at this point, but when she said that, my attention snapped back. Elmo asked, what man? But she couldn't give a name. Instead, she described him. He was average height, not nice. A man, but not human. She said he had been following her and her brother for years. She first saw him in the woods near her grandparents' house, and he scared her so badly that she ran away. But he never left. Every time she slept somewhere new, he showed up. I should have been more freaked out, but at the time I just figured she had some kind of reoccurring nightmare. I mean, kids say weird things all the time, right? The next morning I told some of the other counselors about it. We laughed it off, didn't think much of it, until another counselor, Ace, walked in and dropped a bombshell. She told us that 2 of her campers, both 13, had gone to the bathroom together the night before, and on their way back they started freaking out, running, crying. They swore someone was following them. She had to calm them down and get them back to sleep. That got my attention. I didn't tell Ace what my camper had said. I didn't want her starting some panic, but my gut was telling me something was really off. Later that night, Shank, the repair guy who also happened to be a minister, blessed a bag of salt for us to spread around the cabin, just as a joke to comfort the girl. But before bedtime, she looked up at me with these wide, sad eyes and whispered, "This won't work. He likes salt. He's going to come for it." And that's when it hit me. I don't know why, but I started panicking, full-on terror mode. I ran to the kitchen, begging Shank to let me sleep in the break room, but he just hugged me and said, "You have to stay. It's God's plan." I don't even know if he was serious or just messing with me, but I was too scared to argue. That night, I lay in bed clutching my flashlight and the bag of salt, trying to calm down, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. The cabin was small, just 4 sets of bunk beds and 2 windows. One window faced a big tree, the other was right next to me. Sometime in the middle of the night, all 5 girls in my cabin inhaled sharply at the exact same time, and then in unison, they all exhaled one word, ink. That was my camp name. I whispered, "Are you guys awake?" But there was nothing. Just silence. A few minutes later, I heard them start breathing normally again, shuffling in their sleep. Then I heard the door creak open. I had closed both doors. I froze, barely breathing, staring at the door. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. A dark shape, leaning over one of the girls. It was reaching for her face. I flicked my flashlight on and gripped the bag of salt, repeating, "God loves me. God loves me. God loves me." The thing darted towards the door, and I swear I watched it pull the door open and slip out. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, shaking, until the sun came up. When morning came, I went to my friend Marco's cabin. Before I even told her what happened, she said she'd woken up in the night to the sound of heavy breathing outside her window. When she looked, she saw a shadowy figure step into the bushes, and then Ace walked in. She said that right before she went to bed, she looked out her window and saw a dark figure standing by the tree outside my cabin, staring in through the window, directly at my camper's bed. I never went back to that camp, and I don't think whatever it was followed me home. But even now, I get chills just thinking about it. Whatever that thing was, I just hope Tieran is okay, because I don't think it was done with her. Alright, let me tell you about this wild camping trip I went on with my friends. It was supposed to be this chill, fun group thing. 3 nights out in the bush, just hanging out, roasting marshmallows and enjoying nature. But man, it turned into something straight out of a horror movie. I'll walk you through it, night by night, and trust me, by the end, you'll be glad you weren't there. So we get to the campsite, and everything's pretty normal at first. We set up our tents, start a fire, and just vibe. It's around 9:30 p.m., and everyone's wide awake, hyped for the long weekend. You know how it is. Campfire, snacks, and someone inevitably suggests telling ghost stories. Of course, we're all like, yeah, let's do it, because apparently we're geniuses who think scaring ourselves in the middle of nowhere is a good idea. We start sharing our own stories, but after a while, they get kinda lame. You know, the usual, I heard a noise in my attic stuff. So, someone pulls out their phone and starts reading Reddit horror stories. We get through part of one, but it's not even scary, so we give up. That's when I decide to mess with everyone. I point at the bushes and go, "Hey, look at that thing over there." Totally joking, right? But then, people start freaking out. Like, legit freaking out. They're saying they see things moving in the bushes. And it's not just me. I've got a wild imagination, but even the super logical, down-to-earth people in the group are seeing stuff. Then we start hearing noises. Rustling, snapping twigs, and this weird howling sound. I'm pretty sure the howling was just some kids from another campsite messing around. But in the moment, nah, it felt like something straight out of a nightmare. The wind's howling too, and it's freezing cold. Everyone's on edge, and we decide to call it a night and head to bed. But of course, no one actually sleeps. All night, I hear footsteps around the tents and more of that eerie howling. It's like the forest itself is alive, and it's watching us. The next day, we try to act normal. We hike, cook food, and laugh about how spooked we were the night before. But as soon as the sun goes down, the vibe shifts again. It's like the darkness brings this heavy, oppressive feeling with it. We're back around the fire, and someone brings up the man in the bushes again as a joke. But this time, no one's laughing. The same stuff happens. Footsteps, howling, and shadows moving in the trees. Everyone's on edge, and you can feel the tension in the air. People keep glancing over their shoulders, and every little noise makes someone jump. We try to brush it off, but deep down, we're all thinking the same thing. Something's not right here. Now this is where things get really weird. The third night starts off the same as the others. Jokes about the man in the bushes, people seeing things in the dark, and that constant feeling of being watched. But then, around 10 p.m., things take a turn. The girls head to the toilet block, which is this creepy little building a short walk from the campsite. It's just me, my friend Spencer, and this guy Brandon hanging out by the fire. Brandon gets up and says he's going to the toilet too, but me and Spencer are convinced he's just going to prank the girls. Classic Brandon move, right? But when the girls come back, they're freaking out. They say they saw the word help written in big letters on one of the poles near the toilet. They're convinced it was Brandon messing with them, but when we ask him, he denies it. And not just a casual, "Nah, wasn't me." He's insisting it wasn't him, which is weird because Brandon always owns up to his pranks. Spencer starts getting nervous, and honestly, so do I. I'm the kind of person who always tries to rationalize things, so I'm like, okay, if someone was in danger, would they really have time to write help on a pole? But the girls are adamant, and one of them offers to show me the writing. We head back to the toilet block, and it's gone. The word help is just not there anymore. I try to play it cool and make up some excuse about charcoal soaking into the wood, but I know it's a lie. There's no way that writing just disappeared like that. Everyone's freaking out now. And the mood is officially ruined. We all go to bed, but no one's sleeping well tonight. The next morning, we're all packing up to leave, but we're told to clean the toilet block before we go. Great. Just what I wanted to do after 3 nights of terror. So, me and a couple of friends head over to start sweeping and cleaning. Almost immediately, things feel off. Every cubicle feels like it's hiding something, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. Then, out of nowhere, gum nuts start flying through the bars of the window. For non-Aussies, gum nuts are these little seed pods from eucalyptus trees. I go outside to yell at whoever's throwing them, but there's no one there. This happens a few times, and each time, I'm more freaked out. At one point, my friend yells that they saw a gum nut get thrown through the window, and I'm literally seconds away from the edge of the building. I sprint around to catch whoever's doing it, but nothing. No one's there. And here's the kicker. The window is only about 20 centimeters tall, and the nearest gum tree is way across the road. There's no way someone could have thrown those gum nuts from that distance. I go back inside, and my friend leaves to talk to the girls, so I'm alone in the bathroom. That's when I see it. In the corner of the room, there's this shadowy figure. It's about my height, 173 centimeters, with long, scruffy hair and this blank, expressionless face. It walks with this weird, lurching gait and disappears into one of the cubicles. I nope out of there so fast, but when I go back in with Spencer later, the toilet in that cubicle is flushing by itself. We both bolt out of there and refuse to go back in. We left the campsite later that day, and I've never been so relieved to get out of somewhere. Looking back, I still can't explain half the stuff that happened. The disappearing help sign, the gum nuts, the shadow man. It's like the whole place was messing with us. I've tried to rationalize it all. Maybe it was the wind, or our imaginations running wild, or even some elaborate prank. But deep down, I know there was something off about that place, something not right. So yeah, that's my camping horror story. Needless to say, I'm sticking to hotels from now on.